The First Shogun's General, Chapter 7, Meeting the Doctor, Mother. POV, Yoshitsune. It has been a few days since Michikatsu finished the second lesson, so I decided that now we would take this time to go visit an old friend of mine. When I told Michikatsu this, he asked me who we would go be seeing. I told him it was a surprise. Michikatsu just blinked all 6 of his eyes in synchrony, staring at me with the expression plants make. In other words, no expression at all. Due to these actions, I gave him a nickname, the Plant. He did not like it and protested by calling me Sadist Sensei. I am not a sadist. Eventually, we both just dropped it, but still kept the nicknames. We just didn't call each other those things unless it was in good humor. So here we are now, on the road to my friend's house, which is located in Asakusa Town. Asakusa Town, Michikatsu shouted at me as he noticed where we were going. "Is that a problem?" I asked, to which Michikatsu explained, "Asakusa Town has recently become a place where he frequents and can even say may start to live here soon. This was months ago, so he now most assuredly has set up a life here." After his explanation, I felt nothing. For my safety, at least, as I knew I could take Muzan on. But my friend, they are hiding from Muzan, so I will have to warn them about him. Then that just means it's even more imperative we visit my friend, as they are hiding away from Muzan. Saying this, I sped down the rest of road at a moderate speed, leaving Michikatsu behind, who immediately sped up to chase after me. It was about 5 minutes later that I arrived, and after another 5 minutes Michikatsu arrived, who looked ticked off. I ignored this and told him, "Come on, follow me. We will be going to my friend's residence." He was still ticked off, but followed me anyway. We walked for a few minutes before arriving at a wall. Michikatsu looked like he would explode in frustration, but then I just walked through the wall. When I noticed Michikatsu hadn't followed me, I poked my head through to see him staring at me with his jaw slightly unhinged. I sighed and dragged him myself through the wall and towards the house on the other side. Michikatsu. When I realized that Sensei's friend lived in Asakusa, I nearly had a heart attack. Instead, I got a panic attack. When I explained to Sensei why it was a bad idea to go to Asakusa, he didn't react at all, just said why they should keep going there, and then sped off, leaving me behind. A tick mark grew on my head as I sped off after him, and when I reached Sensei, he completely ignored that I was ticked off and made me follow him. I was still ticked off, but thought, at least we will be going to his friend's residence now. I followed his lead, and he led us to a wall. I was frustrated beyond belief, so frustrated I couldn't even voice it. Then, to my absolute shock, he went through the wall. My jaw dropped slightly, which hadn't happened in over 400 years. I was too shocked to register that he pulled me through the wall, and only when we had reached the house on the other side and knocked on the frame did I fully get out of my shocked state and wait in anticipation of who this mysterious friend of Sensei's is. The door slid open to reveal a teal-haired youth, a demon I belatedly realized. The demon took one look at Sensei and scowled at him. Then he turned towards me, and his eyes widened, and he screamed, "What the hell? Why is he here?" Povi Tamayo. It was a nice peaceful night. Experimenting on a cure for demons was truly difficult, but with Yoshitsune-kun's help, it made things much easier. In fact, isn't he supposed to be visiting soon? I can't wait to see him again. Thinking this, I sighed in bliss. I heard a knock on the frame and knew it was him. But before I could rise to go greet him, Yushiro beat me to it. He really is overprotective of me, I thought in exasperation and fondness of the one who I saw as a son. Then I heard Yushiro scream, "What the hell? Why is he here?" I immediately rushed towards the door and saw that Yoshitsune-kun had brought along someone else. Upper Moon 1 Kokoshibo. Instead of fear, all I felt was righteous anger, not because Yoshitsune-kun brought Upper Moon 1 here, no, but that he didn't tell me he would? Yes. So I immediately lit up into him. "Dear, why did you not tell me you were bringing Kibutsuji's right-hand demon here? Well, won't you answer me, dear?" Finishing this all with a scary smile that has always cowed him. O.V. Yoshitsune. When Yushiro screamed, I sighed. I guess I forgot to tell them that I took Michikatsu as my student. Tamayo-chan is going to be so cross with me. I thought in horror, as my fears were confirmed when she appeared. She looked at me, then at Michikatsu, before deciding to light up into me. She was terrifying when she got like this, and that scary smile. I immediately cowed before her and started explaining while in the dogaza position. "Yes, honey, I took Michikatsu here as my student over a month ago, and I didn't tell you because I forgot to send a letter informing you of this. Please forgive me." Finishing my explanation, I didn't raise my head until she sighed. "Well, as long as you don't do it again, or else you're staying on the couch for the next 10 years. Understood?" Hearing this, I paled and shakily and rapidly nodded my head. "Yes, of course. Understood perfectly, honey," I said as in the corner of my eye I saw Michikatsu's shocked expression and immediately knew more explanations were going to happen. POV. Michikatsu. When Tamayo appeared, my brain paused. When Tamayo started scolding Sensei and calling him dear, my brain stopped. When Sensei called her honey, my brain glitched. When I heard her threat to Sensei, my brain died. What was happening? Tamayo was Sensei's friend. She sounded more like his wife. She's Sensei's wife. Tamayo is Sensei's wife. Sensei is actually married? Thinking this, I couldn't figure out how I could notice, as he gave no signs that he was even married to begin with. I think I heard Sensei order the teal-haired demon youth. I think Sensei called him Yushiro, I thought, to take me inside to the living room. Yushiro seemed ready to argue, but one look from Tamayo cowed him, and he followed orders. I was now sitting in the living room in Seiza. My mind had just started functioning again, and so I blurted out the first thought that came to mind. "You're married?" Silence descended as my question was spoken. "Yep," thought you figured it out, Sensei answered as I fought the urge to shout out. How could I ever even figure that out? So I replied, no, and left it at that. POV, Yoshitsune. I sighed yet again. Michikatsu was most likely trying to figure out what were the tics I have that marked me as a married man. So I went to go brew my tea as I thought of what to say to Michikatsu. Yeah, I have been married to Tamayo-chan for the better part of 421 years. And to Yushiro. Yeah, you have a new older brother now. That would go badly. And my wife. So, I sort of adopted Michikatsu without telling him or ever informing you about it. Please don't relegate me to the couch for eternity. Yeah, I'm doomed. When the tea was done brewing, I went back to the living room and came back to find Michikatsu and Yushiro shaking each other's hands. Tamayo-chan smiling. What did I miss? Flashback. 15 minutes ago. POV, Michikatsu. When Sensei left, I wanted to scream, "Take me with you!" But I couldn't, so I instead chose to sit in silence and wait for Sensei to return. But Tamayo decided to engage in conversation with me. You have no idea what is going on, do you? When she asked this, I did not want to reply, but that would be extremely rude of me, so I answered her, none whatsoever. She sighed. My very foolish husband has brought you here. What reason do you think he has brought you here? Hearing her question, I thought about it, and from what knowledge I knew of her, I think I knew why. Because I am the demon who is most closely associated with that man, correct? Answering her, I saw her nod once. Yes, though that is only half the reason. Hearing this, I narrowed my eyes in thought. Half the reason. What could the other half be? After thinking for about a minute, I gave up. What is the other half? She smiled at me with a slight twitch of her brow. To introduce you to your new adopted family, who I am sure my husband never informed you of being adopted by him. My brain once again was fried when I heard this. Sensei adopted me? Since when? Tamayo, or rather my new mother, kept explaining after waiting for my brain to unfry itself. You see, I could tell that he adopted you just by how casually he was acting with you. That was my first clue. The second clue was how nervous he was when he was explaining to me. He is always nervous when explaining things he does without me knowing about it to me, but never that nervous about it, which led me to my conclusion of you being adopted by him, and without him ever even telling you about it. When the explanation was finished, all I could think of was to mutter, "Damn sadist Sensei." Yushiro, who was off to my right side, seemed to perk up. Sadist Sensei? You have experienced that absolute hell he calls training, too? He asked me as I looked towards him in understanding. Yes, but from some of his mutterings in the daytime, I know I have only scratched the surface. Trying to not destroy my surroundings sounds much easier than learning how to regenerate faster by walking on lava while in an active volcano. When I finished, I saw him cringe and my eyes widened. "You had to do that, didn't you?" I stated as he nodded his head. "Yeah, it was 97 years ago. I had just finished improving my fighting style and kekijutsu when he had me follow him to one of his houses. Specifically the one located inside Mount Fuji. He then stated that this lesson was supposed to improve my regeneration speed. I had to spend years on that lesson, and during that whole lesson steam was rising on occasion. I thought it was going to erupt. When I voiced these concerns to him, his response was, "If my house can survive an eruption from Mount Fuji, then you can too." I was terrified, and when I passed his so-called lesson, I immediately went home to Mother and informed her of it. She banished Father to the futon in the guest room for 25 years because of that. When he finished his explanation, I asked him, "So, if he ever makes me try to do that, I go to Mother when it's all over, so the sadist gets punished." He nodded his head as Mother giggled. "You can come to me before then too, though your father would still do it." She said, as before I could respond, Yushiro held out his right hand. "My name is Yushiro. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance, older brother." He finished with a smile as my eyes widened as I smiled too. "My name is Michikatsu. It is good to meet you too, little brother." Saying so, I grabbed his right hand and shook it in mine as we both laughed and continued to shake each other's hand, as Mother smiled at us before Father returned with tea. "What did I miss?" he asked in confusion as we all laughed at him before he started laughing too, as he sat down and gave us all a cup of tea. It was here. I figured it out. This tea was apparently Mother's favorite tea. That was the clue he gave me. "This is not a clue," I yelled at him as the rest of my new family laughed, before I too soon joined them. Chapter 8. Warning and a Revelation. POV. Yoshitsune. After hearing Michikatsu shout out how what I gave him as a clue was not a clue, with all of us laughing afterwards at that, it was time to get serious. I looked towards my wife. When Michikatsu and I were on the road, he gave me some dire information when he figured out where we were going. Saying this, the light atmosphere instantly vanished, replaced by silence. Keeping my wife's gaze, I dropped the bomb. Muzan is here, and has been here for months. Seeing my wife's eyes go from serious to frightened in the blink of an eye was hard. What was worse was seeing my youngest slightly tremble at the news. Not because of fear for himself, but because of fear for the ones who took him in when he became a demon, who raised him as their own. Watching Michikatsu's expression, though, filled me with terror. Not because he looked like he would betray us, no. He looked like he wanted to fight Muzan. Unlike everyone else here, I knew the true Muzan, both his personality along with how powerful he actually is. Don't even think about it, Michikatsu. You aren't ready to go against him. Getting his attention and, in consequence, everyone else's. I continued, the Muzan you think you know is just a mask. The power you think he wields is nowhere even close to his true power." Seeing Michikatsu's and even Yushiro's skepticism, I sighed and explained, "Michikatsu, who is stronger, Muzan or Yoriichi?" Phrasing this question towards him, he seemed about ready to speak before he stopped. POV Michikatsu. When Father asked me this question, I knew the answer, but I stopped before I could answer it. The answer should be obvious. It should be Yoriichi, but that's just it. It should, not is. Contemplating what Father said previously, did I know the true Muzan? He should be a coward. He should be narcissistic. But then I remembered a conversation I had with the former strongest demon under Muzan's control, Ryuki, the demon who was the upper moon. One before I was, or before it even existed. That brother of yours, I glared right there, really destroyed Muzan. Not just physically, no, but also spiritually. I tried my best to remember the rest of that conversation. Before he met your brother, I glared at him again, he would just go out and do whatever he wanted. His favorite hobby was sparring with me. Muzan's favorite hobby was sparring with the former strongest demon, but he never once sparred with me or any of the other upper moons, both past and current. I continued trying to dig through my memories of that conversation. You know, he once loved fighting. He also told me why, though I cannot say the reason as I promised. I never would to anybody who asked. I understood why he would like it. Now, though, he seems terrified when anybody even mentions fighting. It's a shame, really, that his once brilliant battle spirit has now been reduced to nothing. I remembered something else Akaza once told me that directly contradicts what Ryuki said. You know, at first I thought Muzan-sama didn't have any battle spirit, but if I focus for just long enough, it looks like it's hidden by something. So he hid his battle spirit? Why? I knew I would not find answers from that conversation. That ended in me reprimanding him, so I looked deeper in my memories, until I came across the one which had my final conversation with Ryuki. There is nothing left, not physically but spiritually. Everything is gone. Muzan's once great desire for battle has been extinguished. Our once daily sparring sessions have been abandoned. My time as a demon was only great for me because Muzan only turned those who had potential or were already warriors. Now, he changes cowards, thieves, the unworthy, those who have no true talent or desire to be a warrior. I didn't respond to this, or at least I don't remember if I did or not. All I remember are his parting words. There is only one other in the world who could possibly kill me. I will seek them out and ask for one last glorious fight. I cannot continue to watch as everything around me is twisted into everything that Muzan and I once despised. Remember these words, for they are my last. He then walked away towards the only other who could kill him. At the time, I thought he meant Yoriichi. Now, though, I knew he wasn't talking about Yoriichi. So who? After thinking for a few seconds, I realized who it was, Father. It was father. But if that's the case, then Muzan has been aware of father for a long time. So why did he never inform any of us upper moons about him? But this brings up another question. Why did Ryuki not think Yoriichi could kill him? Ryuki was weaker than Muzan. Everyone at the time knew that. So how could the man who defeated the Demon King with ease not kill someone who was weaker than the Demon King? I tried my best to understand, to comprehend why, but I just couldn't. So I asked the one who killed Ryuki, "Father, why did Ryuki insinuate that you were the only other besides that man who could kill him? When my twin was still alive, who was the one who defeated Muzan?" POV Yoshitsune. Watching my new son truly think about the question I posed to him filled me with pride. Then hearing his question to me, my heart leaped for joy at hearing him call me father, and my brows lifted at hearing an old familiar name. "Ryuki, huh? I haven't heard that name in centuries," was my response to him. Seeing him about to ask me more, I continued, "That's because Yoriichi, while he was very strong, could never even hope to kill Ryuki. From your question, I already know that you know he was second only to Muzan in strength. Well, if you don't include me. But what you don't know is that Ryuki actually saw your twin in action against a weak demon a week before he encountered Muzan." Pausing to allow him to digest that piece of information, I continued. "He said to me that, while that Yoriichi may be strong, to the truly strong like us, he still has quite a bit of a ways to go before he becomes a worthy opponent. Yes, he was strong. I'm not denying this, but to others like Ryuki, Muzan, and me, he still had quite a ways to go." Finishing, I noticed how Michikatsu was now in thought, before I heard him say, "Father, I know my answer." POV Michikatsu. After hearing Father's explanation, I was shook to my very core. It was like an earthquake had happened inside of me. Ryuki, Father, and even Muzan. Muzan, who is absolutely terrified of Yoriichi, thought Yoriichi was not at their level. It was an unimaginable, absurd, and downright terrifying thought that Yoriichi, who is remembered as the strongest demon slayer in history, was not on their level, nor was considered a worthy opponent. But nonetheless, I now had my answer. Father, I know my answer. I took a deep breath, for I wasn't sure if it would work or not, but I had to try. Thus I braced myself before I said, "The stronger between the two of them is Kibutsuji Muzan." POV Tamayo. Listening to this whole conversation brought back memories, good memories for a change. Before I ever broke the curse and left Muzan's side, Ryuki was one of the better demons, at least he was, in my opinion. Despite his friendship with Muzan, he was not evil. In fact, looking back on it all, Muzan acted very differently in Ryuki's presence. He was always so relaxed, so friendly towards him. The two of them even could joke with one another or play jokes on the other, and they both would just laugh long and loud, but, most importantly, happily. I was brought out of my reminiscing by hearing my new son say he had his answer. For some reason, he took a deep breath and seemed to brace himself before he answered Yoshitsune-kun. The stronger between the two of them is Kibutsuji Muzan. Hearing say Muzan's full name, I froze. No, I thought in desperation, please don't take another child from me. But to my great relief and shock, he was completely fine. Without warning, I dashed quickly over to him and hugged him in a death grip. I am so happy you no longer have the curse, but never do this sort of thing again. Do you understand me? I said, while holding back my tears. It hadn't even been a second before I felt two other pairs of arms join mine. Listen to your mother. We don't want you leaving us just after joining us. My husband said with a slight shake in his voice, Idiot big brother, don't do that ever again. Yushiro said, as I heard a slight sob come from him. Pulling only slightly away but still keeping him in my arms, I told him, You are part of our family now. You are family, my son. All of us care for you, so please don't scare any of us like that ever again. Seeing him nod, I watched as Yushiro released him from his hug and returned to his spot, as my husband and I both at the same time released him from our hug and went back to our respective spots. Now then, what about the Muzan problem? POV Yoshitsune. Hearing my wife voice out what the discussion was originally about, I responded, as much as I would love to say pack up and leave, unless his activity grows more, you aren't leaving, are you? Looking at her, I saw the resolve and determination in her eyes to stay. Switching my focus, I looked and saw the exact same determination and resolve in Yushiro. They wouldn't leave. Not until they had to. Sighing, I said, Well, if you won't leave, that is your choice. Just make sure to be extra careful from now on. Looking at the two of them, I saw them both nod before I nodded to them. Then I casually stood up and picked up my wife from the ground in a princess carry hold. So me and Michikatsu will be staying for a while, Yushiro. Michikatsu, have fun together. And be nice, your mother and I will be occupied for a while. Bye, I said as I rushed towards our shared bedroom as my wife was yelling for me to release her and saying, Not in front of the kids. As I quickly reached our bedroom door, slid it open, quickly stepped in, and slid it back shut. Cuddle time, I thought happily as I cuddled with my wife, while leaving the two children left behind blushing tomato red.